So things are always changing. I mean, there's only thing that is constant is change. And again, in these days, sales is your leading aspect to getting new customers. You can't always rely on marketing to send your message out into the wilderness and hopefully people see it. So you still need to call. And although cold calling isn't the ideal format, warm calling is. And today we have an international speaker and sales trainer, Norm Roth, who has been doing this sales for what, maybe 50 years. And he's he's just 52 right now. So he's been doing it since a very young age. He's a very young 52. And so let's welcome our guest for today.
Afternoon, everybody.
So there you go. So there was a great introduction. Oops. So again, as I mentioned, you've been in the business since the early 70s. And you've got a wide range of experience in sales and sales training. So why don't you give us a rundown on that?
Well, I started out 109 years ago in 1970. I was recruited by a large corporation and went into their management training program. Had some great leadership and some great training from them. And I was with them for as a district manager for a while. And then they loaned me out on a loan executive program to one of their larger clients. And that client bought my contract from the parent company that I was working for. And I wound up as a Midwestern vice president for them of sales and marketing. They were sold, and I was hired by another company in the pharma industry as a vice president of sales for them, and I ran their team for quite some time until I made the move over to Regis. And I was with Regis until I retired in 2009 as a global corporate director of sales team, very large sales team. They were $2 billion international company. But I had wound up with pancreatic cancer, which I beat, praise the Lord, thank the doctors. And as I recovered, I was getting bored and driving my wife, Rhea, absolutely nuts. So I decided to open up a little sales training and business consulting company. Wound up with clients in 33 states and 11 countries. And after a period of time, sold off my international clients to a fellow out of London that I knew. And then I decided to really pare it down. And as Bruce will tell you, I retired from my business 3 times. But now I've really wound down. I'm 77 now, and I've really wound it down dramatically. And I keep a couple of clients right now that are local and wonderful people, but I'm always available. If somebody needs to call me, or if they have a question, or if they need some help, whether it's a business plan, a marketing plan, or just some help with some ideas, somebody to take the roof off the top of their house and look down inside and see what they're too close to see, I'm glad to help them do that. And that's pro bono. No cost for that. That's one of my ways of giving back. Bruce, you know, I won the Entrepreneurial Excellence Award from the Daily Herald a few years ago for working with entrepreneurs and doing a lot of pro bono. I really enjoy that because I think small and mid-sized businesses today continue to be the future growth, economic growth of our country. And
yes,
we become the biggest employers overall as a whole.
So we have one comment from one of our viewers saying they're hard to understand or hear you. I was wondering if it's possibly closer to the microphone.
Is this better?
That's a lot better. Okay, there you go. So, and again, as you moved up a little bit, I noticed behind you, you had a flag. What is that representing?
That's in honor of my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, Leonard Mayer, who served as a Marine in Vietnam. He was well decorated, and he's a wonderful guy, and he came back and he was really screwed up like a lot of guys that came back from their work. And he passed away in '95 at the VA from lung cancer.
So it's great.
Just a really great guy.
It's great that you're still honoring him. And again, and that's kind of where we are in our country right now, where I guess people are still trying to I guess, be patriotic and still run a business. And is there a convergence of that, or is it a divergence of sales, running your business, and still being political?
Well, I think I I don't like politics and political discussions in business. You know the old saying, you don't talk about religion and you don't talk about politics. And when you're in business, I think that has to stay apart. I think you can be patriotic, certainly. Uh, you can show the flag. You can do those types of things, and you can support local causes, which I think is important, which humanizes your business anyway. But and we'll talk about that a little later. But no, I think you have to work on your business and work in your business and keep politics and religions aside. I really do. That's just a personal opinion. Other
Yep,
people may feel differently, and I respect everybody's right to have the right to their own opinion. That's what this wonderful country is all about.
definitely agree. So how is B2B marketing or B2B sales different now
Good
than it
question.
was 5, 10 years ago,
It's
or even
more
5, 10 months
complex.
ago?
It's more complex than it ever was before. You know, I told you I started out in 1970, and I can remember throughout the years writing more business on a barroom napkin or a restaurant napkin or a golf course than I ever did on a purchase order form. Not the same way today. Businesses want something more today from that glad handing, whiskey drinking, martini drinking salesperson.
I
They
used to
want,
be in sales in advertising, and back then we had the 3 hour lunch.
sure
We
you
would
did,
go out,
sure you did.
and but
Today,
we
today they
closed
don't
business
even,
on that.
they can't even go out to lunch with you. You can't take a doctor out to lunch today. You can't take a lot of businesses out today. You look at a company like Walmart, they move their buyers around every 6 months because they don't want their buyers to get too close to the sales representative.
Yeah, you actually, I've heard one story about, I think, working for that one company who does virtual offices. That you had this one salesperson who called on this one client for a number of years and never closed a deal. Can you tell that story?
Never closed the deal.
Yeah, you had one story about this one gentleman who had a sales account, always went out to golf with this one gentleman,
Oh
and
yeah, he never closed the deal. And he was working for me. And I had him in the office. And I got on the phone and I called the buyer. And I said, "Hey, I don't understand something. Help me out." And I won't mention the guy's name. I'll call him Joe. That wasn't his name. I said, "Joe keeps coming down to see you every couple of months, and you guys go to Del Frisco's for dinner, you go to a ball game, you go out and have a few drinks." I said, "But we're not doing any business with you. What aren't we doing?" And he said to me in his Southwestern accent, he says, "God darn it," he says, "we're having so much fun." He says, "We really never talk about business." So I said, "Well, I got two choices. I can fire him because he's sitting right here with me now." I said, "Or we could have a business discussion." And we had a business discussion and we started getting orders from the guy. So, you can get too social, but businesses today want problem solvers, Bruce. They want people who know their market and who know and understand their business. They want people that before they even call them have researched their business, whether it's on LinkedIn,
Yep.
whether it's on Google, whether it's going to their website. They want people that can have a business dialogue, engage them in a conversation, understand what their current business situation is, what their goals are, what they're trying to reach, what's happening, what's working and what's not working. They want a more personalized human approach to what's going on. They want to understand what capabilities the suppliers can provide them with. This one sign company I told you about, Sinorama and Libertyville, small company. family owned, 23 years. But they understand their customer. If somebody says to them, I would like to talk to you about signage, they go out and actually look at the properties before they even have the meeting with the buyers. They understand who that company is marketing to. And then they'll create any sign, obviously, that the buyer can possibly imagine, but they want to get inside the kimono of the company and understand them more. And what that does, Bruce, is create a more frictionless, personalized buying process because they're anticipating what that company's needs are, and they can make more relevant suggestions and deliver the right level of engagement across the customer's buying journey. Because today it's a buying journey. It's not just transactional. You can forget about transactional business today. You want long-term customers that are going to be with you and that are going to give you referrals both internally and externally. So you got to achieve a deeper insight into what the customer's needs really are. And you can do that through analytics. You can do that through predictive data and through science models. And it's not really that hard because the customers today are expecting more digitally enabled, streamlined transactions. So we got to get smarter about the ways we do business because the buyer wants to feel more secure in their buying decisions. Money's tight today.
Yep. So again, we have one comment here from Eric Burns. Virtually, you can reach more people than you used to when you had to actually get in your car, drive to the airport, fly to their location, rent a car, go visit them for an hour, then go out to dinner with them, and then get back on the plane, then coming back home. What used to be a day or 2 days of sales calls is now you can actually just do something like this, where you just call them up virtually and you're in and out in an hour.
And they love it because it shortens the time span and you can have a very realistic dialogue. That's not to say that if you're doing long cycle sales or you're doing very, very high level dollar transactions, that they don't want to meet you in person, because sometimes that's important. But doing it the way we're doing it now, you can see body language, you can understand, you can look that prospect straight in the eye, but it doesn't hurt to get out in the field and actually see what's going on from time to time. But you're seeing more and more. And I think we're learning more with this horrible COVID pandemic that we're having, that a lot more of this can be done, and you can get a lot done in a much shorter period of time. But again, don't discount getting out to see people from time to time, because if you can walk yourself through an organization, you're going to meet a lot more people. But virtual meetings are tremendous. I'm 100% in favor of those.
Yeah, there was one company I was working for. They had a sales staff that actually helped us sell our video production services. And then what we did is we produced video for that company, and then we were out of the picture. What I found is that their salespeople were just on the phone making call after call after call, and never following up once the job was done. And they sold their service and said, okay, here you are. And then the client ended up calling us back when they had questions. How have you seen often where people are in the transactional mode, where they just make the sale and then forget about the business and no follow-up and no additional content afterwards?
Yeah, they should be fired. Customers today want continual messaging and influencing beyond the sale. And it's important for a couple reasons. You know, you've been to some of my seminars, you videoed my seminars. And I always say this in every seminar: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And by taking an order and never getting back to that customer again, or getting back once or twice and then forgetting about them and waiting for them to call you, is utterly foolish today. You're just slitting your throat, and you're opening the door, and you're leaving the door open. You need to create exit barriers. Now, what I mean by that is you want to make sure that your customer's not going to go somewhere else. You don't want your competition to be able to get inside the door. And if you're continually having interactions with the customer or with the prospect, you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your business. And they know that you care. Sending them a little video clip, sending them an article that's relevant to their business, calling them up, but you have to have a reason for calling. If you're going to call them or if you're going to email them, don't waste their time. Have a reason for calling. You saw an article, you heard this, you happen to be driving by their plant and noticed that. Whatever it may be, you have to have a reason for interacting with them, but please continue messaging them beyond the sale. There's a financial advisor in Libertyville who sends out monthly market updates to prospects and customers. It's called drip marketing, which you're an expert at, Bruce.
Yep.
It's really that important to be able to continually communicate with them. So you have to ask yourself some very hard questions. What do you really know about your customer or about your prospects on an ongoing basis?
Yep. There's one thing that we do is called Google Alerts, and it's very simple and it's free through Google. Is you go into their system, we just type in Google Alert, and you can add your company's the company you're looking for, add their name to a Google Alert, and that way every time they show up in the news, you get an alert, or even in their industry. So one of our companies, we have an industry alert, and that when we find something, we can share it with them, and maybe they haven't seen it. And also when they're in the news, we see it top of our email list, and we can respond to that saying congratulations on your new launch, or we just saw that your senior VP has been honored in this organization. And so we keep on up top of mind with our clients by keeping in touch with them.
That's a great idea. I know before video and digital came into the business world, when I'd see an article in a newspaper or in a magazine, I would cut it out and laminate it and put an easel back on it and send it to them so that they could put it on the credenza behind their desk in their office, or they could put it on their wall. So what you're saying is the same thing, only it's done digitally. And it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. They understand that you care. The other thing that we have to understand today, and I'm sure people that are listening in on this are running into it, is the younger business to business procurement professionals. They're bucking prior generations like mine and our generational preferences, and companies that don't keep up, they're likely to lose contracts. They'll walk away from people that aren't continually staying on top of their customers and messaging them. You know, Heinz Marketing did a very, very interesting survey, and 41% of corporate buyers or purchase influencers come from the under 40 crowd today. And also from the study, it said that 80% of procurement committees are comprised of people at mid-career. We have to understand how the younger generation does business. It's interesting, was it 4 or 5 years ago, I did a seminar for a major business organization. There were 1,100 attendees. I did the keynote address at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C. And my topic was how to do business with multiple business generations.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah. And we know that we're dealing with younger people today.
Hmm.
We're dealing with more women today, more women buyers, which I'm glad to see. I'm glad that that glass ceiling has finally been broken. We're seeing a lot more women CEOs, a lot more women buyers today. If you're in the commercial real estate industry, for example, or if you're in the sign business or people that cater to the commercial real estate industry, most property managers today are women. And that's good to see. But we have to understand how to do business. They want to know the facts. It's not about price today. People
Yep.
still think about price, and it's not about price. You can't put a dollar figure on knowledge. You can't put a dollar figure on capabilities. You can't put a dollar figure on anticipating a client's needs by having business conversations with those prospects or with your existing clients and going vertically and horizontally within their organization. We have to be able to understand the demographics today of who we're doing business with. I tell this story, if you don't mind, Bruce. I
Go
was,
ahead.
I was coming out of a hotel. You've heard it. I was coming out of a hotel and it was chilly outside. And I was standing in the lobby waiting for a cab to come up, and there weren't any cabs. And a homeless guy walks up to me, and he was dirty. He was filthy. And he says, he walks up to me. He says, "Give me $100." I said, "Give you $100? What am I going to give you $100 for?" I says, "You want lunch? I'll buy you lunch. You want 20? I'll give you 20." He says, "No." He says, "Give me $100." So I said, "I don't understand." He says, "You're a wealthy guy." He says, "I can tell by the way you're dressed. You do well. You can afford it." He says, "Watch this." And he walked over to a young couple. The woman was holding a baby. And he said to the guy, he says, "Give me $20." And the wife moved away from him and held the baby tight and says, "Give him the 20, get rid of him, give him the 20." So the guy gave him the 20. So I says, "Come back over here." So the guy walked back over to me. I says, "You asked me for 100. You asked them for 20. He says, I said, "Explain the difference to me." He says, "It's demographics." He says, "They're younger." He says, "They don't have the kind of money that you probably have." So I took the $100 out of my pocket and I gave him the $100. And then I said, "I want to talk to you more." So I says, "Come on, I'm going to buy you lunch." So we walked down the street and I bought him lunch. And we were talking, and it turns out that he had lost his job. He was downsized out of his job. He was a heavy hitting sales manager with a company I won't manage, but a great company. He was downsized out, couldn't find another job. His wife kicked him out of the house, got divorced. He started drinking, and he wound up on the street. But he was a bright guy. So I called a friend of mine and told him about this guy. And I bought the guy a suit. I sent him out on an interview in a cab. And the guy is still with the company 7, 8 years later now, and he's their VP of sales. But the point is,
Yep.
he hit a hot button with me when he talked about demographics. You have to understand the demographics of who you're trying to do business with.
Definitely.
Market to those demographics. And I think video is a great way to do it. I really do.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I think some people are thinking that if you're doing B2B, it's 55 plus,
Yeah.
but that's no longer true. I mean, because people, I guess if you're 55 plus, you try to market to yourself. Through all our videos that we've done online, we've looked at our demographics, the people who are watching our videos, and they're the 35 to 45. And so that's the target market I'm going for, even though I'm no longer 45, although I can try to pass for 45.
You know, the other thing is no longer understanding our products and services out there is enough. Entrepreneurs, and I know some of you listening are entrepreneurs, and sellers have to evaluate their buyers' needs more comprehensively than ever before. You know, baby boomers traditionally stick to a traditional sales funnel. You know, they prefer brick and mortar stores, for example. Millennials seek the convenience of apps. I don't know how many of you are using apps out there today, and mobile and other digital devices. And they're 90% more likely to buy if you look at eMarketer research. So you want to incorporate an updated sales and marketing techniques to match today's demands. And that's B2C as well as B2B.
Right.
So you got to think about strategy now. What kind of tailored approach are you going to have for each buyer? And how are you going to know what to tailor an approach to unless you've done the necessary research? How are you going to humanize your company today? You know, we talked about a younger generation of procurers today, right?
Yep.
So they want to work with a business that cares about a human cause. I know some people are very active in Rotary. Some people are active in Feed My Starving Children. But it could be anything, Wounded Warriors, anything. But if you look at the predictive models that are out there today, that's what these younger buyers are looking for. And I think lastly, and then we'll open up for questions or whatever Bruce wants to do.
Right.
Be what you say you are. There's an old saying, talk's cheap and it takes money to buy whiskey.
Yep.
74% of B2B buyers today hold are doing more research, actually doing more than half their research online. They know more about your business when you call them than you do. And
Yep.
they want to know what you know about their business. And I strongly look at people, and all of you research a company called Forrester, Forrester, and take a look at their surveys, because their surveys really show you deliberation between words and action and what you should be thinking. Because what you put in the mission statement and how you cultivate your brand image and take the advice of today's leading companies and embody your company's sole purpose and emphasize that pragmatism and simplicity and straightforwardness. That's important today. Be what you say you are.
Right. Again, that's a key in being on live video, and being on video is being authentic. We've got a comment here from, I think, you know, Joe. This isn't the same Joe you fired, was it? No, it definitely
So
isn't.
Micallef, I'll tell you what, if anybody wants a great sales trainer, a great sales business consultant, or if you have sales staff and you want your sales leaders to be able to get the most out of your salespeople, or if you're a small business or a mid-sized business and you want to grow, honest to God, Joe Micallef is the guy. Joe Micallef is the guy.
Well, it's a mutual appreciation, because he's calling you a genius. And it's no longer about features and benefits. It's about needs and solutions. And every business owner and salesperson must take time to explore their target and market's comprehensive needs. So it's not just about the individual company, it's about the overall culture and market. Because I work with one company that they've always been a market leader, even though their market segment has been hit hard in this economy. But if you understand the market in general, you can sell to that client.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. You know, we live in this shell sometimes, and we have to get out of the shell. We have to look at what other people are doing successfully. We have to listen to other people, and we have to learn, because none of us know it all. If you don't have a coach, get a coach. I had one for over 20 years. I think it's just that important. Joe Micallef is a great guy. I strongly recommend that all of you go online and look at a guy by the name of Dave Roth, Partners in Excellence. Look at a guy named Tibor Shanta. Look at Jeffrey Gitomer. I used to give out Jeffrey Gitomer's books to people. I did it at seminars, and I did it at keynote addresses. I give it to buyers to look at, so buyers could understand from a salesperson's perspective what we're trying to accomplish and how we have to try and work together. I know you know Jeff Gitomer very well, Bruce.
Yep.
I mean, you've been on his show, haven't you? And
We've talked, and actually I've got 3 of his books. Right, this is probably his most famous book. Is Little Red Book of Selling.
Little Red Book of Selling. It's a great book. He's got the little yellow book, the yellow green book, the yellow black book. He's got great books. I mean, take advantage of this. Take advantage of this. None of us know everything. They really, 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 really don't. And some of us have strengths in one area.
Actually,
we have to build those strengths in other areas.
Let me readjust that we were not actually getting in. Let's see, shift. Okay, so I guess I had that turn on. So I guess got to tilt up a little bit to read all of Joe's comment. Whereas you must represent your authentic self and true credibility online. Definitely, I agree with that. And through websites and social media, you can't fake it. Definitely not, especially with live, because here we are live, and we are ourselves. If we try to be somebody else, you can't continue with that.
It's a brilliant statement.
Right. Demonstrate authentic self, credibility. More business owners and salespeople need to embrace this medium. Bruce offers great support and guidance to help you better your use video to demonstrate your brand. Thank you for the endorsement. And again, Joe and I have actually worked in the past. He was here in the Chicago area, and now I think he is in the further Midwest. I think it was, is it Iowa?
Iowa.
Iowa.
2 blocks farther, you drop off the end of the world. Come back to Chicago, Joe.
Yep. So if you want to, we can wrap this up. We can open up with more questions here. I don't think we see. We have one comment here from Rich that says that Google Alerts are table stakes, also Feedly. So he's basically, I guess the comment is that Google Alerts is just the beginning. And then with a platform like Feedly, you can get a lot more information, a lot deeper information. So great. Actually, I think we kind of missed this when we first came on, but I remember the very first time I met you. It must have been maybe 10, maybe 8 years ago. You were holding a seminar. I had no idea who you are, and you were giving away bottles of wine. You answered the question correctly, and the question you would ask is, "What is the 99-1 rule?" And I had just actually studied that maybe 3 or 4 days earlier than that, and so I came up with a quick answer, and I won that bottle of wine, which was a great bottle of wine. Thank you.
Give your answer.
So the answer to the 99-1 rule is that 90% of the people, especially online, are watchers. They just consume the content and they don't engage. The 9% do engage, where they share and they post comments and they like comments and contribute to that content. And only about 1% of the people online are actually creating that content. And so if you want to stand out in your industry, to actually be an influencer, be recognized as a influencer in your industry, in your market, in your area, create content. And it's really easy to do so, especially these days. All you need is a webcam, a computer that has internet access, and a message. And I think that's probably the true instance is, what is your message and how do you convey that message, and getting back to what Joe was mentioning, be your authentic self.
I agree completely. Content is king. Content is king. When you're talking to somebody on the telephone, you better know what you're talking about. You better understand, and you better be able to deliver it in an engaging manner.
Right.
Always ask questions. When I talk to a buyer, for example, I constantly would say to them, "Make sense? This makes sense? How do you think about this?"
Yep.
It's important. You're doing two things. Number one, you're confirming that you're on target or you're not on target. And number two, you're drawing them into the conversation because you want your prospect or your customer to do most of the talking. You want to engage in a Socratic conversation, and you can lead them down the road to where you want them to be, but you've got to get them involved. They've got to be talking, and you've got to watch their body language. And you have to be a chameleon. If they're sitting back relaxed, you're sitting back relaxed. If they're talking quietly, you're talking quietly. You have to understand who that buyer really is.
Definitely. Well, thank you. And then here is, if you want to get in touch with Norm, you can actually, here's his phone number. You can reach him. I'm guessing you answer their phone during the daytime. And if they have an emergency sales call at 2 o'clock in the morning, need information, you probably aren't going to be answering your phone at that time.
No, my cell phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I do some things. One of the things I do for one of my clients is they've brought me on, they've outsourced to me to drive in new business for them. Because I love cold calling. Call it warm calling because I know about the businesses before I call. But I love opening new business. And I love winning back lost accounts. Those are two things that I love to do. Bruce, you know that. So I get calls at 1, 2 in the morning that something's happened and they need help. And I'm there for them. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're really having a problem and you just can't get back to sleep because you've got this business issue that you can't handle or that you're having problems with, you can pick up the phone and call me. I don't mind.
Or text you at least.
Yeah, no problem. It's fine. We are all in this together today. We want the economy to be strong and we want it to continue to be strong. And the only way that's going to happen is by doing more business and hiring more people and being profitable.
Excellent. And again, here's my call to action. Subscribe and follow us on BSVPTV here, both on YouTube and Facebook. So especially in the future, you will future episodes. And this video will actually be available in replay. So if you missed the beginning, you can actually wait for it to be available in the replay and just tune in and watch from the beginning. So in great conversation with you, Norm. Thank you for joining me. Yep. And again, reach out and contact Norm if you have any questions. And if you want to add him to your sales team, because you work pretty much internationally.
I do.
Especially with your cohort there. What's his name over your shoulder?
Squeaky. He came to drive me crazy. And I apologize for the way my hair looks, but we're sheltered in and I haven't had a haircut since February. It's a terrible thing. My wife says I need to get a ponytail and I need to put on leather pants and look like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I don't think that's going to happen. Bye, guys.
Okay, thank you much. Actually, I don't know what happened. I guess the platform kicked me out, but we were ending anyway. So thank you again. Thanks for joining us. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.